Hey, everybody. This is episode 5 of the Student Venture Series podcast that we are filming with the UMKC Block School and the Rainier Institute. Want to send a big shout out to our presenting partners in Startling News and the team at Social Apex for making this happen. Today, we're talking to Professor Matlack. She is leading the eScholars effort here at UMKC, which is such an integral part of the mentorship component here at the university. And we're going to talk to her today about her experience, the things that she sees here, and what makes UMKC Block and eScholars in particular so special. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background before you came in? You've been here for 6 years at eScholars. What were you doing before that? What led you to this position?
Yeah, so I've been at UMKC for 6 years now. And prior to that, I was at Techstars, which is
Yeah.
one of the world-class venture accelerator programs. And I was running the Kansas City Accelerator for 2 years. So we invested in 10 companies a year, 20 total. And then I worked as a consultant for a year after that. But my time running that accelerator really informed a lot of what I do with the eScholars program, such as Mentor Madness and just how we utilized mentors. Before that, I was at the Kauffman Foundation. And at Kauffman, I was on the research and policy team.
Oh,
And I was studying how to make sure entrepreneurship was really inclusive. And so I was running the gender-focused entrepreneurship program there. And I came to UMKC because I wanted to do what I was doing on the road for Techstars here.
mm.
And so I was traveling with Techstars in my third year there to Louisville and Buffalo and trying to figure out how to make their ecosystem stronger. And when I got the opportunity to do it here, it just felt more natural.
Mm.
And this place too, UMKC is really special to me. I went to the University of Nebraska, Omaha,
Mm.
which is a really similar school. It's it's really the same kind of campus as UMKC in Omaha. And when I was there, I had professors that completely maximized the experience. We're obviously a different market than KU, but we
Mm.
still have the same high quality students, the same high quality academics. And the professors there really taught me how to maximize my opportunities. And so that's kind of what I like to do with my students here.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, I know, you joined a few years after I had departed eScholars, but I know for me personally, eScholars was super impactful, specifically, not only the programmatic elements, but, really the one-on-one mentorship and communication, not just with mentors, but also with professors, right? And so, obviously now coming back and being a mentor, I've gotten to see, your care with the students and the things that they're doing here. And so I think it's really exciting to see how eScholars is growing. So can you tell me a little bit about, when you came in and where eScholars was and how it's evolved to really address student needs as the climate continues to change?
That's a good way to put it because in my mind, we should have a different program every single semester.
Mhm.
Even if it's just a little bit different, it should be adapting to where students and the market and Kansas City is at any given time. And so the eScholars program's been around since 2011, so for 14 years. And it's always been a really high quality, competitive to get into accelerator program. And the things that I wanted to do when I came in was implement a Mentor Madness program. So at Techstars, we would do Mentor Madness, which would mean that for 3 weeks, 5 days a week, for 5 hours a day, we would introduce mentors and entrepreneurs in 30-minute Mentor Madness sessions.
Woo.
And it was exhausting, but that's when the businesses would adapt and evolve the most.
Right.
And I saw how that impacted the confidence level that these entrepreneurs had with how they talk about their venture and always their venture on day one to their venture on day 15 was a completely different
Mhm.
thing. And they had suddenly like the network to build their business. And so I wanted the students here to have that same experience. And so that was a big part of it. So we do a 2-day Mentor Madness here, and the students have 20 mentor meetings in 2 days, and they are a completely different person from mentor meeting 1 to 2. And many of our students come for 2 semesters. So even to see them come back and do Mentor Madness again,
Mhm.
it's amazing how much that experience changes them. And something else that I thought was important to add was more of a showcase at the end of demo day.
Mm.
And so this is a public event at the end of the program, always the first Tuesday of the last month of the program at 4 o'clock for anyone that wants to come. And so we get an audience of like 200 people. And for students, if you can think of anybody at any time having to share something personal to a huge audience, it's high stakes.
Yeah.
And so it's high stakes for the students. And we do a lot of what I did at Techstars for that too. So we do pitch practices before where they're practicing their pitch for an audience of mentors.
Mm.
And that's always fun to see how much that makes them change over the course of several weeks. And we only put them up on the stage if we know that they're ready to handle that environment. And so only 8 presenters out of our class of about 20 end up presenting at demo day. Um, and then there's money on the line and things like that. So
Yeah.
those 2 programs have really been kind of like the hallmarks of what I used to get it started. And then every semester we change things a little bit to
Mhm.
make things a little bit more relevant to the
Yeah.
students.
What do you think about, because I think that there's inherently, when you're teaching entrepreneurship at a scholastic level, you have to obviously have a lot of these programmatic elements that are, focused on new product development and MVPs and all this stuff. But then there's also, the really important piece of bringing the outside world into the facility so that students can kind of throw their ideas at the wall and see if they actually stick or not, right? Because when it's on paper, it's different than when you pitch it to, a guy like Lee or something, and then
Yeah.
it's like, oh shoot, I do need to think about that. So how do you kind of balance, and juxtapose those two kind of fundamental properties of teaching entrepreneurship with the, like, the reality of the real world, and will this product actually work, versus the scholastic element of like, hey, this product doesn't need to be perfect, you just need to learn. Like,
Yeah.
how do you kind of reconcile with those two qualities?
Like, is this a program or is this a class? I'm often asking
Mhm.
myself. There's a lot of ways to do this. The first thing I'm always emphasizing in my class is just as a cohort, we need to have this close culture of honesty where I'm able to maybe use one as an example of feedback that needs to be given that's hopefully feedback for the whole class. But I wouldn't do that in front of all of the mentors. That's something that's like for the safety of the walls of the classroom. And so we kind of have this element in the class where it's like our class culture internally. And then when we invite people in, which is pretty regularly happening. The other thing, and I think this is so important. So my background is organizational behavior. That's what my master's degree is in. And what I'm wanting to do more than anything else is develop the next round of entrepreneurs for Kansas City.
Mhm.
And the idea that they have as an undergraduate student or even a graduate student might not be the idea that they become known for as an entrepreneur. And I'm very agnostic to what the idea is. I always tell them day one, I say, you were accepted to this program not because of your idea, and for many of you, in spite of your idea, but because of them as individuals. And so the hope is that we're like developing their character, their professionalism,
Mhm.
their ability to do email really well, which sounds like an easy
Yeah,
thing,
we
but
just talked about that.
it's
It's
not.
like, so hard.
It's so hard, and it's how you signal credibility.
Yes.
When you are an entrepreneur and you don't have revenue, and if you do have revenue, it's probably small at this stage,
Mhm.
then the one thing we can do is be extremely professional and show up owning a room with our confidence. And so
So true.
as I'm doing all these things like teaching value proposition, I'm also saying like, and here's the very specific details of how we respond to a potential mentor or to a potential
Right.
customer because we don't have those, we don't have a business.
No,
So those are
100%. Well, I think that's like a really big piece of it because, in a previous episode, we talked about how, those intangible skills, those soft skills, critical thinking, communication, professionalism, organization, like those are so important, and they're not necessarily listed in the job description, right? I know for us and, the businesses that we run, like a lot of the work that we get is because we're very communicative and highly collaborative. And it's like, the product almost doesn't always I mean, the product's gonna be great, but it's like, it's not even how you get the deal. It's because people realize, oh, they care about the product, they care what they're
Mm.
doing, they respond. And so I love that you said that. What are some of the characteristics you talk about, like, building the next generation of entrepreneurs, like, aside from the standard, right, like, of, they're curious and they wanna build something, like, what are some of the characteristics that you see in your cohorts that have been successful, like, some of those individuals? What are the things that really set them apart from their, classmates when you see someone that's like, "Wow, they really are on it, they know what they're doing, and I feel very strongly they'll be successful." Like, what are those identifiers for you?
I'm thinking about that all the time, and you are talking to the ones, well, not the ones, many of them have it, but some of the ones that I know have it,
Mhm.
in previous podcast episodes. It's the ones that even if they don't do the things perfectly, they are trying as hard as they can to get it right, and they're iterating. So, just a few that come to mind that you've had on the show are like Riley,
Mhm.
with Hold Tight Baby. Something that she's doing that is so remarkable, and this is not something I can always train. I can say it, but it's something that she just has, which is she is willing to prototype and be scrappy, and is doing it at such a level that I haven't really seen many times. Like
Mhm.
she's built 8 versions of her pants by herself, teaching her how to herself how to sew, and like showing up to art places to learn how to like put the bottom, track pads on the bottom of
Mhm.
the socks herself. Like, she's learning how to teach herself these things. She built her own mannequin. Like, she is saving money and not spending it on those kinds of things, and instead figuring out how she can build before she takes it to an actual seamstress to have it
Right.
prototyped. Like, that's amazing. And you've had Leslie on. Leslie is so on top of her professionalism. Like, she's really focused on how do I make sure that you're not gonna question my credibility when I walk in a room, and that's how I talk and how I communicate, and she's backing it up by doing the research with as many mentors as possible to make sure that the data she has about her business is correct.
Yeah.
And so it's both walking the walk and talking the talk, like, she's doing both of those things.
Mhm.
And Andrew, you've had on as well, and what Andrew's been doing is he came in and was so willing to make himself vulnerable to the learning that he needed to do in terms of his branding, which is really incredible. Like last semester, I think what he used mentors for most was for branding and being vulnerable about not always being the most outgoing entrepreneur in the room, but wanting to do a good job at it. And that sort of vulnerability has made him really open to that kind of feedback and mentorship as well. So those are really special
Yeah,
qualities.
no, and I think that's, really important to touch on because I think people get into entrepreneurship and, whether they do it, like consciously or subconsciously, you always see the YouTube courses and the e-commerce stuff and all those things with like hard skills, but a lot of people don't realize that it's truly the soft skills typically
Hmm.
that set you apart from everybody else because you can always learn a hard skill. If you want to learn how to code, you pretty much can. Like
Hmm.
you want to learn how to paint, I didn't know how to operate a camera before I started my
Hmm.
business. Like, put that on a credit card and just said, hopefully this works out, right? But I think it's more of like those soft skills which are hard to teach because you can't teach that in like a very, rigid format. And that's why I love that you bring in all these different people into the ecosystem for these students to really think about things. And so one of the things that we touched on with Lee was the overwhelming sense of curiosity that needs to exist
Mhm.
for entrepreneurs. Talk to me about the iterative process at eScholar. So, for me, I did a business when I was an eScholar, and I don't do that business now. I changed the business like the month before I graduated, and that's what became Social
Yeah.
Apex. But tell me about how you help students really focus on the iterative capacity because I think a lot of them get stuck with the
Mhm.
identity piece where I'm this business. This
Yeah.
business is me, and so I don't wanna change it. So how do you help coach students that come through eScholars to really focus on, like, "Hey, your identity, just like your business, should be fluid. Like, things need to advance and pivot and grow." Like, how do you kind of, work with that?
Yeah, I talk about this a lot and I think about it a lot, like with our team here. This psychology of a pivot can be really heavy.
Mhm.
And so I'm constantly thinking like, how do I lessen the burden of a pivot? Because the thing about a business is it is constantly you're upping the stakes for yourself of why it's important that you keep going with it. And so it's like we need to make that not so heavy,
Right.
not that deep. Like we should change. And so we do things in the program like we celebrate pivots, and that's something that I've added in the last couple of years. It's like, okay, so and so is not doing their idea anymore, and we don't know what they're gonna do. And then we all applaud and we say, "Good for you," because this is based on research
Yep.
and information, and we're no longer wasting anybody's time on this. And that's a win to me.
Right.
And so we try to make it very celebratory, this idea of like we're changing. And anytime someone does have a pivot, I make an announcement to everyone because I also want them to know like if you're thinking about pivoting, you're not the only one.
Mm.
The person next to you is pivoting and it's going to be fine and we can handle this. And so I think we really need to celebrate them
Mm.
and also like the iterative process that you asked about, like, a lot of my e-scholars come back for a second semester, which is so valuable for hopefully them, but definitely for the culture in the program to see, As a first semester e-scholar, someone that's in their second semester, it makes you go, "Oh, that's what I'm aiming for. And am I behind?" And no, I get a lot of those questions and I'm like, "They were in the same place as you
Right.
6 months ago.
Right.
And this is how much we can grow in 6 months.
Right.
This is a good thing." And the people who come back a second semester, I try to change a lot of the content from
Mhm.
semester to semester, but the stuff that remains the same, they go, "Oh, I needed to see this a second time with, like, an understanding of what my business is." So even the repeatable course material, once you see it with the lens of, "Now I know what the business is," it's useful to see it again.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think you have a really unique set of experiences working in Techstars and, working with the Kauffman Foundation of seeing a lot of different businesses. I think what you touched on is really interesting because I think inherently the psychology of the pivot is real. I love that because I kind of come from the perspective that no business has ever been successful without a
Mhm.
pivot. What do you like think about that in regards to I literally don't know a single company that hasn't pivoted
Yeah.
that was successful. Like, what is it about pivoting? Is it a human component? Like, is it following like what is it
Yeah.
that because we've done it, in our businesses, we've pivoted a bajillion times, right? And some people call it niching down, some people call it pivoting, but like what is that inherently? Because I think it is almost like a necessary
Mhm.
component to building a great business.
For sure. Well, there's this psychology term, the hedonic treadmill. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't.
It's like this idea that our brains are trying to achieve homeostasis, and
Hmm.
our brains are also doing like going up and down all the time. And you're like, I think I got it. And then, oh, shoot,
Yeah.
this is not what I thought it was going to
Yeah.
be. And oh, I think I got it. And oh, wait, no, it's not this. And I see that with entrepreneurs a lot. And I think about that with a pivot. Like an entrepreneur might go so hard at an idea for 2 weeks and be like, I need to collect this pricing information, do this market research, talk to some customers. Everything's going great. I think I finally came to the idea that I was supposed to work on. And they do that for 2 weeks, and then suddenly it drops and they go, "Oh, wait, all this
Right.
information about the real world is hitting me." And their job, and I always tell them, "Your job is to get back up on the hedonic treadmill.
Mm.
We're trying to get to homeostasis, but we gotta get back up." And so as you're trying to get back up, you're learning information
Mm.
that's gonna take you to the next round, and that's ultimately gonna be pivot related
Right.
because now you know more, and so you can do better,
Yeah.
and so it just takes time.
Yeah, I think it's like all inherent. It just connects back to learning and
Mhm.
curiosity, and then having a unquenchable thirst for saying, "I love this idea, but I need to be curious about what makes it work and what makes it not work,
Yeah.
so that I can make it the best it can
Yeah.
be." So, as we kind of come to a close, what I'd love to hear from you is just like your last thoughts on like what makes the e-scholars program and the mentorship program at UMKC special. Like, if there was a student that was at UMKC, kind of thinking about doing entrepreneurship, or maybe a high school student looking for a college, like what is it that makes UMKC so special for people that are trying to like dream of something different for
Mhm.
themselves? Like what would you say makes it, really stand out?
Well, I think we have the resources. Like, if you want to start a business, we can help you be successful. And we can show you opportunities for yourself that you did not see for yourself. Like, that's what's always inspired me about UMKC. I can remember when I went into college, I had one idea of what my life was going to be.
Right.
And, changed majors like 1,000 times and landed here, which I didn't even get a business school degree in my undergraduate
Right.
school. And now I teach in a business school. Like, you just don't know. And so you sometimes need people to show you
Mm.
what that path could be for yourself. And maybe you don't do exactly that, but you start to expand the possibilities for yourself. And that's why people should come to UMKC, go to college. Like, this is a place to sort of sit and think about what we're going to do. I always tell my students too, like, in the 1960s, there's this annual survey of freshmen that goes out every single year. And in the 1960s, the annual survey of freshmen, it happened somewhere in California, asked students why they wanted to go to college. And in the 1960s, that answer was to develop a meaningful philosophy for my life.
Mm.
And that's so beautiful. And today, that's not what the answer is. Today, it's for financial reasons, for a better, career opportunities. And it makes sense. Like, there's college is expensive. There's a big ROI that you have to make work.
Mhm.
But you can also come here to sort of explore those different parts of yourself and
Yeah.
do take some time to develop a meaningful philosophy for what you wanna do with your life, and that's what's inspiring about entrepreneurship to me, so I think that's reason enough, and our mentors are really amazing and supportive and wanna give back, and we have things for people that want things.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
yeah,
awesome. I know that what attracted me to coming to UMKC as a transfer was just like that energy of being in the city, connected to
yeah,
real people. Like I felt like UMKC represented a chance for me to like really learn in a real environment that like truly would prepare me for the real world. So I think I really appreciate, what you're doing for the students in the e-scholars program. I know e-scholars was super impactful for me. And so I know it's definitely the same for these students. And thank you for joining us
thank
today for the
you.
episode, and, it's gonna be awesome to see where this kinda grows, and we'll be interviewing many more eScholar
Yeah,
students, so thank you so much, and
thank you.
thank you everyone for watching today, and we'll be back soon with another episode in the Student Venture series. If you can, please leave a like and subscribe to the UMKC Block School channels, as well as the Rainier Institute channels. They have some amazing events, amazing things that Alex is putting on for the community. It's just awesome for you to get involved, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, so thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.